This is the 13th Colony Cask Strength. Right away on color, you can see a nice darker amber color. See some decent legs here, but not the like lots and lots of little legs that I usually like to see. It's a little more sparse. Let's get on the nose. So right away on the nose, there's this really big nutty note, followed by a little bit of kind of spiciness, almost like Knob Creek and Wild Turkey kind of like fused together, because it definitely is that kind of peanutty nutty note, and a little bit of spice kind of similar to Wild Turkey spice. I don't really get a lot of fruit, but I do get a decent amount of deeper, like almost on the edge of burnt caramel sweetness to it. I'm really curious to see how that shows up on the palate. This is typically between 5 and 6 year product, and you can kind of feel that in that ethanol hasn't mellowed that much. This thing, first sip, even through the Kentucky Hug, like there is a decent amount of ethanol presence, and it gets almost like cinnamony on the palate fairly fast. That nuttiness is really strong on the nose, but it's not so strong on the palate itself. There is good amount of kind of a like darker, almost burnt caramel thing going on. It's really a lot of spice, a lot of ethanol and heat, a little bit of the nuttiness, and a reasonable amount of caramel in there. A little bit of vanilla in the caramel coming in, so very classic bourbon flavors, right? But it definitely does have that more like nutty profile and not fruity profile, which would lead you towards something that's closer to, I would say, like the Jim Beam nutty note as opposed to, say, like the Heaven Hill nutty note that I typically get. But there definitely is that big presence of spice, and it's a lot like Wild Turkey, honestly, where there's this good kind of spicy note, not something that's painful. However, because it's a little younger, and maybe it's just the way that 13th Colony does their stuff, the ethanol presence is there. So you get quite a bit of heat on this 120 proof, which is kind of the opposite of what we've seen in some of the older whiskeys that are out there. Age mellows that down, and despite their proof, they drink really, really relaxed. So let's get to an overall score. This isn't bad, but my problem is, like, for what it is, it's not great. So with that, I'm going to give this a 70.